My name is Sara Saatchi. I am an instructor at UCSC Extension and University of Silicon Valley. I teach different programming languages like C, C++, Java, Python, web programming, JavaScript, also fundamentals of computing. I'm also an AWS certified practitioner and teach cloud computing. So that's a little bit about me. I will be talking about, oops, sorry about that, Python for a little bit. Give you a little bit of background and explain why Python has become so popular. So Guido van Rossum created Python in 1989. So when he submitted his proposal to DARPA for funding, he defined his goals for Python to be an easy and intuitive language, just as powerful as major competitors, open source, so anyone can contribute to its development, code that is as understandable as plain English, and suitable for everyday tasks, which allows for short development times. And well, indeed, he actually achieved his goals, and Python has become a popular language thus far. So why Python? First of all, is a readable language, meaning that any engineer, any researcher from any discipline can easily read Python and understand and grasp quite a bit of it and get the big picture of what it is doing. It is intuitive and easy to learn. So if you want to learn a programming language, fast and nicely, that's Python's your best bet. It is less error prone than other languages, less lines of code, which result in short development times. Python is a general purpose language. You can write small scripts as well as large ones. Also, Python is an open source project. It's maintained by Python Software Foundation. It has a supportive community that contribute to the language, maintain it and develop it and enhance it on a continuous basis. There are more than 100,000 modules and can be applied to a wide variety of disciplines, such as image processing and computer vision, numerical computing, web development, robotics, AI, machine learning, and deep learning. So to give you some understanding of how the language looks like and how it is compared to other languages, I'm going to show you the Hello World program and compare it with other languages. So the Hello World program is the very first program that you write when you are learning a new programming language. And that is because it's the simplest program. It's a program that outputs or displays a message on the screen. And for this example is Hello World. Okay, so we're gonna display Hello World on the screen with Python and other languages and compare them. So here is how you code a Hello World program in Python. So basically a print statement, all right, a parentheses, right, and our string that we're going to print out, which is Hello World. Simple, easy to understand, easy to read. That's what we call readability, right? So here is the program. If you want to write it in C, the same program, exact same thing, you're going to display a Hello World message on the screen. You can see that it's not as intuitive, right? You have to at least know a little bit about it, right? So in my beginners program, courses for C as well as other languages, I have to mention to my students that, don't get overwhelmed, maybe memorize some of these syntax, and for now, and I promise you will get it by the end of the course. But for Python, I don't have to really mention that. It's so easy and straightforward. So the other language here I want to show you is C++. Same thing, you can see that there are a lot of statements here and there that you need to actually at least memorize or get comfortable with from the beginning, right? Here it is in Java. All right, so we have this class definition, the name of the class, all these words, public, static, void, main. Again, at the beginning of the class, in my Java beginners class, I will mention just go by this. Don't ask me why for now. This is how we display a simple message on the screen. And I promise you by the end of the course, you will understand it. But for now, just memorize that. So you can see how different it is when you are learning the programming language in Python other than other languages. Well, I don't want to intimidate the people who want to learn, Java and C. You will get it, but it's not as easy as if you were going to learn the language in Python. So to be, fair, I also compare it with another scripting language because Python is a scripting language. JavaScript is a scripting language. Still, you can see that it's not as intuitive as a print statement in Python language. So again, to remind you, this is the simple statement that we actually use in a Hello World program in Python. Now, just to show a little bit about how smartly this language has been designed, I am comparing two functions, all right? Comparing a simple C function with the same exact function, but in Python. So you can see that, it's a little bit longer, right? We have to have these brackets in C. Here it is in Python. It's shorter a little bit. We do not have to use these brackets. But the important thing that makes it unique, makes Python unique, is that these indentations have actually a meaning and they're important in Python. So in C, these indentations, as well as other white spaces, are not actually necessary. Okay, so that means that if you even do not indent these, your program will run and you will not have any errors. But we do it because it makes it a little bit more readable, right? It makes it better to the eye, right? Now, in Python, we are actually using this indentation to actually define the function. So it's part of the syntax. You need to use this indentation. If you don't, you will get an error. But I think it's a very smart way of designing this language, because now that we have to indent it, why not put it as part of the syntax? And everybody has to abide by it, and it's going to be readable. It's going to be useful as well, because we are saving some lines of code. It's quicker to code. These are all these little small things that build up and eventually makes a code really readable, also faster to develop. Okay, so that's something I wanted to mention here. The other features, very big features of of Python is its modules and packages. So that's why I want to explain that a little bit, and then we go from there. So a module is a Python file with functions, definitions, and statements. The purpose of a module is to gather a bunch of program so that it's reusable for other people. So the other programmers that are going to use same application, they can actually use these modules. And to make it organized, they have come up with this package, which is a collection of Python modules. So we have packages in Java and other languages as well. Same thing. So packages in Python include those modules, and as well as other packages. It's more like a directory and subdirectory hierarchy. It's kind of like gathering everything related to each other together. So yeah, that's what I wanted to cover. That's it for me. I would like to pass to Marilyn to start from here and talk a little bit more about packages.
Hi. Now let's see, I'm going to share my screen. So at this time, I am just teaching Python for programmers, which is a hard-hitting class because you're expected to know how to program. And that's a good reason to take Sarah's class, so that you can get into the programmer's class. The programmer's class covers everything in Python from beginning to end. So you get a little leg up in the beginner's class that way. And I am teaching Python for data analysis, where you don't have to be any kind of a programmer, but it is a pretty good idea to be interested in data and analyzing data. It also is a hard-hitting class. I guess that is sort of my trademark. I don't make classes easy. Something came into my mind when Sara was showing us all these other languages and how they do hello world. And the idea that Guido had when he was writing this is that he separated what the computer has to know, what the interpreter or the compiler has to know, from our own application. So we never have to do anything just to talk to the computer. We only concentrate on our own application. And this is a huge thing for errors and fun, how much fun it is and obsessive it is to work in Python. Okay, so I'm going to show you just a few. Oh, I didn't talk about my background. My PhD is in applied physics, applied to radio astronomy, and that's where I first studied data, which I love data. And I was more a mathematician and a computer scientist than anything else. Okay, so, but now here I am teaching Python and loving it. I am showing you just little snippets from the class materials that I use. Here we're seeing from the data analysis class. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to show you this wonderful new feature in Python. Knocks everybody out. It's called f-strings. So here is a string. Oh, I should tell you, this is a Jupyter notebook. In the data analysis class, we use Jupyter notebooks. If you're doing things like networking, you're going to like these notebooks. But if you're developing applications, they're not the ones. So when I talk a little bit about my programming class, then you'll see that I'm going to change my environment. Alrighty, so here is where I explain about the F string. Here's the regular string notation that we saw with Sara. If you stick an F in front of it, then you're allowed to put curly braces inside your string and the interpreter will evaluate name. Or here we have the interpreter evaluating the len of name. So you can put any code you want right in your strings. And that makes your code a whole lot more readable and easy to get correct. Okay, that's all I wanted to show you from there. I wanted to let you know that in Python, if you come from another language, you have very strange characters to use for the words and, or, and not. But in Python, you use the words and, or, and not. And this helps you not to slide your brain over to figure out what those characters are in, which you'll have to do forever. And the idea that Guido had was to make it as much English as he could. He tries his best to get all strange characters out. Square brackets, backslashes, all these things. Okay, let's look at what I said here. Here's how you go through a sequence. Now, if you come from C or some other type of language like that, you think of arrays and going through your arrays. And you think of the index and you start with the index at 0 unless you make a mistake and start at 1 and you stop when the index is less than the len or less you. That is a very error-prone operation. A whole lot of the errors in our valley come from those endpoints. Python took them out. Guido just took them out of our code. So here I have, well, it's a list in Python, but you would put it in an array in another language. And the name of it is planets. So I'm going to say for planet and planets. And that way I get each of these strings coming out. Here I do another F string because I love F strings. They're so handy. And in the evaluate this part, in the curly braces, I say title of planet. So strings have huge built-in facilities for manipulating strings. What came out then is it titled like that. Just a few things to show you how amazing Python is in its readability. And what's this one? I meant to do that. Oh, okay. Now, excuse me a minute, let me put up other stuff. That's from the data analysis class. And I only teach exactly the Python you need to get to the pandas library, which is what you want in matplotlib. And it's still the same Python that you would need anytime you're going to use Jupyter notebooks to get to other libraries, packages that are about exploring the now, what's going on the network, things like that. But now you go away. And you can, here we go. Now let's see. Try to get these in the right order. This then, yeah, this is the right thing. Let me make it big. This is a little bit of code. And again, you see this indentation. And I saw a question by Jim. I get that full screen. A question from Jim in our audience who want to know, how do you know what to do when you do it with the indentation? Always before the indentation, the line before you end in a colon. And that means here comes a code block. And your interpreter, I mean, your environment should be smart enough so that when you hit the return key, it fixes the indentation for you. It's that easy. And when you want to finish that code block, you just back up. Got the wrong thing going, but we don't have to. All righty, so I wanted to just display to you some libraries. Here's the Datetime library, which is magnificent. And this is the operating system library. Now, before I use it, just a minute, this, the OS library. This is one of the huge workhorses of Python. Almost I can't imagine something that doesn't use the OS library, because when you use the OS library, it knows what platform you are on, whether you're on Windows or you are on Macs or whatever, any platform that Python is on, it knows about that platform. So if you stick to using that, like for example, if I ask for the line sep and I'm in Linux or Macs, it tells me it's \n. But if I do the same thing on Windows, I get these 2 characters is what it is. And Python is so smart that if I use \n, which means a new line character, and I am on Windows, it's going to use the right thing. Also, there's an OS separator, sep, and it knows that the slashes for the paths in Linux and Macs should go that way. And for Windows, you need the double other way. And if you stick to this, then when you're done with your application, it will run on all OSs without any porting. So this was a huge boon to computer science, that you didn't have to have porting teams anymore. Whoops. Well, I don't know what happened to that one. Oh, here it is. Here's the one we were looking at. And I wanted to show you just a little OS and Datetime. Datetime is another amazing miracle. Just trying to get a pointer here. Well, I give up. Okay, so the Datetime, when I ask the OF path, well, here I have a name of a file, and it is a whole name, the whole path, everything with the correct path separators, because the OS gave it to me back up here when I joined them. It put in the right path separator. And so I can ask the OS submodule, os.path, to tell me what was the last modification time. And it'll send back the timestamp. The floating point value is the number of seconds since Unix was born. Okay, but this Datetime library, I can say from the timestamp, and it'll figure out the date from the timestamp. And since I have it in curly braces, it'll know to make a string out of it. And then the output is beautiful. And I don't have any output. Let's see. There it is. That's the output. It makes a very nice time to look at. And also in this Datetime, when you have date times, you can subtract it. And it's so brilliant, it knows what time zone you're in, and it subtracts, and it knows about leap years and your culture. So there's so much that is so error prone that we don't have to do. And that's the idea of Python, is that we only concentrate on our own application. And then let's see, I did one more because it's the sys library, which is another huge one, which will tell me exactly which platform I'm on if I look at it, so that I know, my code knows. Hello, let's try this. Because here I'm using the subprocess library, and that does pipes, so that I could send a command back to my operating system and collect the output, and then parse it and find what is the IP address of this particular computer. So these libraries are constructed to be so brilliant. They all are written by Python people, of course, and we come to understand how important it is to take the difficult bulk of the way of the work out of the face of our consumer. That's what you call the person who uses your library. All righty, that's all the code I'm going to show you for now until you take the class. Sort of that one. But we want to look at, dear. Excuse me. See, things went away. That's what I was worried about. Do I have it here? No. Okay, good. I want to show you about Python.org. I am not showing you the front page of Python.org, but there is only one website that carries everything about Python. If you have a question, it's always good to do a search of the web and find answers, sometimes in 4 seconds of what you need. But this is good. This is PyPy, which is the Python package index. And you see that Sarah hasn't looked in a while. We are now over 300,000. That was a surprise to me today. Different projects, and those are packages, things you can install and then use them to do your application and have all this stuff all done for you. So they're pretty amazing, and these are the trending ones, and so many of them. So good thing there's a search. Alrighty, now I'm going to take this down. And then the community. The Python community is amazing. As you can see from the libraries, these are given to the Python community by people in the Python community. But what I really like is the kindness of the people. So if you go to the main page, you'll find that there is community. And clicking on the community and looking for example at the email lists, I cannot recommend enough, ever, this tutor list. If you don't know something, if you can't figure it out, and you're a member of this list, you can post your question and be sure and give them a code snippet, and they will not be able to avoid helping you because it is such an obsessive language. And you go to bed, and in the morning, all the European Python teachers will have spent the night arguing politely about which is the best way to explain this concept. And although it is an easy language at a certain level, it is really interesting and far out thoughts at some level. I think that's it. Oh no, one more thing. And this is what you really want to know. Let's go to the job board. This is python.org/jobs. Let's see how many jobs there are. Right now, there's 177 jobs on there. And they're from all over the world, but a lot from the United States. And there are a lot that are totally online, if you look. This not only reassures you that Python's a good thing to learn for getting a job, but you see other things. Well, that's also Python, Django. You'll see other things that are used. And then you learn, what do I want to know? And my best advice to you is, what is the application you're interested in? Are you interested in astronomy, or are you interested in networks? And look for that type of job and see what kind of things they want, rather than just be interested in Python. Okay, well, thank you. We're going to hear next from Edwin Mach, and he teaches object-oriented design and analysis. I hope I got that correct, which is a great thing to know if you want to do applications in Python or in any object-oriented language. I will now stop my share. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marilyn. Hi, everyone. My name is Edwin. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, awesome. So let me introduce myself, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what I teach here at UC Santa Cruz Extension. So my name is Edwin Mock. I've been teaching at UC Santa Cruz Extension for about actually over 10 years now. And I exclusively teach object-oriented analysis design. I've taught some other courses as well, databases and Java and things like that. But I think the go-to class for me and what I'm famous for is the object-oriented analysis design. I got my bachelor's in computer science at UC Berkeley. and also my master's in computer science, also from UCLA. I've been coding in Python since I don't know, 20 years ago. So about 20 years ago, in the early 2000s. And I've worked for companies such as AWS and other cloud-based companies as well. So I'm here happy to answer any questions that you have, as long with other panelists here, Marilyn and Sarah, who provided great information to help you determine if Python is a thing for you, if the Python is a programming language for you, and I hope it is, because Python is one language to kind of express what application or what software that you want to develop, and it's just one manifestation of that. But yeah, happy to answer any questions that you may have. Introduction is that, how does Python relate to object-oriented analysis design? It kind of does and kind of doesn't. So so for students kind of thinking about, should you take Python or should you take object-oriented analysis design? It's not an either or question. It should be, taking Python as a computer language, or if you don't know any computer languages, you should be taking that most likely as your first computer language. I mean, it's so simple to learn when I learned it 20 years ago. Well, also because I know other programming languages as well. But regardless, it's really, really simple to learn. And I think Sarah and Marilyn, when you take those classes, you'll be in good hands with those instructors. My class is a little bit more advanced. So after you've taken Python and you want to become a software engineer, or you want to transition to software engineering, if you're in QA, if you're in IT, if you're in ops, I know I have people who are like lawyers. I have venture capital people in my class who want to learn more about software development. People who are with biology background as well, all across the spectrum, and also all across the world as well, especially during the pandemic. Even before the pandemic, we had people in Brazil, and during the pandemic, we had people from China, from India, all over the world. So I think that if you are looking to kind of propel your career a little bit and kind of hopefully transition into a more software engineering role, or even if you're a software engineer today and you kind of want to brush up your skills in development and design of software and code, then the class object-oriented is for you. The class, though, does not focus on a programming language per se. So you don't need to learn, you don't need to know Python or Java or C# or any other programming languages. Sorry, you do need to know one. Look for that. You do need to know one of them. But we don't focus on an individual programming language. So the class is it's computer language agnostic. So hopefully that clarifies kind of why I'm here.
Thanks so much, Edwin. Awesome. We're getting a lot of thank yous. Thank you, Marilyn, Sarah, and Edwin for joining us and speaking tonight. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.